What's up, Barbarians? We have the Rend Barb with the Fields of Crimson. As long as you keep that blood pool up, you got damage all day. I have finally made the Rend Barb. We are missing a little bit of resistances and a little bit of armor. I've tried out the Fields of Crimson and it's actually pretty decent. Surprisingly, it is better over the Magnum Opus. But when you put the two together, your life is too low and you get one-shotted way too much. So because of that, you have to choose between the Magnum Opus and the Fields of Crimson. My glyphs aren't totally leveled up, so we're going to show off Pit 80, and before we do need to put this on, and we're going to get a little bit extra armor. Now we're completely maxed out. Okay. I have yet to try Flay, but Flay is definitely on the menu. Just don't know when I'm going to do it yet. Overall, this build is pretty decent, I'm not going to lie. I was pleasantly surprised. This can definitely go higher. The biggest problem I had was dying. Because some of the damage reduction is a little bit messed up right now, a little bugged. The damage while berserking, damage reduction is messed up. I'll show that off later. So we did die quite a bit, and then I figured out a way to make this tanky enough so that we could do at least Pit 80. I just need to level up my glyphs more, and I want to see how high Rend can go. I'm very pleased that the Fields of Crimson is no longer on the back burner. This is now a good weapon for bleed, and that makes me excited. The only downside now about the Fields of Crimson is that it unfortunately doesn't have any life on it. I think the stats on it are great, don't get me wrong. But our life is low. If you're in World Tier 4, you cannot go below 10,000 life. You will just die. And that was the problem when I had the Magnum Opus and the Fields of Crimson. It was great, it worked really, really well. But I kept dying. Maybe I might try putting on the Doombringer once I get one. That might actually work. And then you might be able to use an Magnum Opus after that, because you'll have so much health. But in the meantime, this is the best way to play, in my opinion. The Ring of Starless Skies does definitely help. But with the setup we have, not 100% mandatory. Definitely helps with Fury, though. I didn't want to try Bleed until I got the Ring of Starless Skies, even though I was using this earlier. It just makes things run a lot smoother. Overall, I'm actually pretty happy with Rend, and I'm excited to max this build out and see how far we can take it. So what you're going to do is you want to make sure that you have Steel Grasp, and make sure you're berserking all the time. Rupture first, and then you go to 10th Rend, but you do have to swap in with Flay for some Fury. Because the damage reduction is bugged, we have to be extra tanky, and we have two aspects that make us have less damage. And without one of them, we will die. So you cannot skip on damage reduction at all. That was the most frustrating thing about making this build. I found I kept dying to like all these random things. It didn't make any sense. Oh, this is my favorite shrine. This is where you just rend away. As long as you're in a blood pool, you got extra damage. And make sure you're also berserking, because we are using the Ugly Bastard helm. That helm is even better than Air of Perdition. And for Barbs, that is the #1 helm. But we'll go over that in the gear section. And if you're not berserking, your damage does fall off. So make sure you are berserking all the time. I mean, you could use Air of Perdition. It is a decent helmet. But overall, it'll be probably harder to find than the Ugly Bastard. Especially if you get a good roll on it. And it's so good. Yeah, I'm really happy that the Fields of Crimson is finally a viable weapon. That 70 multiplier is perfect. It's noticeable. You can definitely tell that they buffed it, and it's awesome. So make sure you do go back and forth between Rend and Flay. Keep our Fury up. Bossing is still Rend's downside. Let's see who we got here. So again, you must have the blood pool. Without the blood pool, your damage falls off completely. And to know if you have the blood pool, if you look at my Rupture, you'll notice it's gold around it. And when the gold goes away, that's when your blood pool goes away. The blood pool is only good for 5 seconds. Actually, it's good for 6 seconds. But your increased attack speed is only good for 5. So you want to Rupture every 5 seconds. And if your Wrath of the Berserker is on cooldown, use Steel Grasp, and that will also help hit some Berserkers. As you can see, we're pretty tanky overall. See how the damage just flies down. Well, it flies down for Rend. Obviously, this is not an Earthquake build, but we do use Earthquake to increase our damage. That was super misfortunate. Alright, we're gonna do it this time. I'm gonna stop talking. Let's kill this guy. He's almost dead. Almost. Yeah, see now look. But also we do have Slaying Strike on, so that also makes a massive difference. But honestly, that was pretty good. Rend Rupture in Pit 80. Bossing is still Rend's downside, and I feel like we can definitely push higher once we get our glyphs buffed more. In the helmet, we have the Ugly Bastard Helm. This is the best helmet for Barbarian. That's why I picked it over the Harlequin Crest and the Heir of Perdition. Heir of Perdition is good, but it's not as good as the Ugly Bastard with 100%. Next is the Rage of Hergath, 100% staple in any bleed build. The most important thing is the unique aspect to be as close to 60 as possible. Then we have the Gauntlets of Intercom. Intercom is a staple for bossing, and on here you want critical strike ranks to Rend. You could put damage over time or attack speed. Then we have the Bocathos, and on here you want max life, potentially armor, and either all resistances or some other resistance that you need. And for tempers, I would put a resistance, Rend size, or steel grasp stuns. For the boots, we use the Weapon Master. On here, you want max life, resistance to all elements, or resistance to elements that you are missing. And you either want armor, movement speed, some combination to make sure you can hit World Tier 4. And for tempers, movement speed is best, either Steel Grasp stuns or Rend size. Have at least one of each. For the two-handed mace, very important to have strength, max life damage over time, with tempers of physical damage over time, and chance for Rend to hit twice. On your masterworkings, you must have chance for Rend to hit twice, at least masterworked once. We have a 91.9% chance for Rend to hit twice. Very important to have that as close to 100 as possible. Then we have the accelerating aspect. You want the same tempers on 2 weapons with physical damage over time and chance for Rend to hit twice. And on all 3 of these weapons, you want strength, max life, and damage over time. Here we have the conceited aspect. We have a barrier up all the time, so this bonus is up all the time. And once your Rend is close to 100%, you want cut to the bone. And ideally, you would like your masterworking to hit once on cut to the bone. Then we have the weapon of the hour, the Fields of Crimson. Been a while since this has been viable. I have to say this is an amazing one, where it has a greater affix on strength and damage to bleeding enemies. Then we have the Ring of the Ravenous. The Rend duration is the most important aspect, where you want it to be as high, as close to max duration as possible. Then we have the Ring of Starless Skies. If you don't have this, I would use Aspect of the Umbral or the Slaking aspect. Then we have the aspect of the Iron Warrior. Very important that the Iron Warrior aspect is on your amulet, as you will get the most damage reduction possible. Without these damage reductions, and some others which we will talk about, you will die all the time. And another thing, make sure your life is at least 10,000. When I put the Magnum Opus on, this is too little, you will die almost instantly. I couldn't even clear Pit 75 when I had this set up. Even though the damage was outrageous, I literally kept dying. And on your amulet, you do want percent to strength, critical strike chance, and cut to the bone if possible. And for tempers, damage while berserking, and I needed 1 roll for total armor. For runes, you want Lith Tech, so that when you stand still, you have an earthquake. Another one you could use if you don't have Lith would be Tam, or you could also use Pock, or Igni if you have that, or Yule. But best in slot is Lith if you can find one. And for the other runes, we have Pock Gar. We use Gar because our critical strike chance is not at 100%. Our critical strike chance is currently at 82%, which makes sure that our Gushing Wounds is proccing 100% of the time. For this build, I do have 2 gems in mind. The one we have here is the Vulture Talons, which while we have an aura active, our damage over time effects tick 50% faster. This is amazing. I really wish they would keep this in the game. Our Rend deals 891 damage over 6.5 seconds. That's because our Rend right now is 13 seconds. If we take this off, it goes back to 5 and our damage goes away. This is the gem to go for. This is the one you should get first. And the second gem is Hodling's Wish, which will increase your growth and decay effects. For the witch powers, We have Vengeful Spirit Servant, which helps us with damage mitigation. Then we have Soul Harvest. Then we have Hex of Shattering. Then we have the Decay Augmentation, or of Siphoning. This is now damage over time, and it heals us for 1% of our life. And then we have the Twilight Warding. Our expertise is Two-Handed Axe. For skills, we take 3 points in Flay into Combat Flay. Next, we take 7 ranks into Rend, into Violent Rend, so we deal more damage to our vulnerable enemies. We take 1 point into Pressure Point to get 3 points into Warpath. Then we take 3 points into Endless Fury just to make sure that we have enough Fury to cast Rend all the time. Take 3 points in Imposing Presence for more life. 3 points into Martial Vigor for damage reduction. 3 points into Iron Skin for Tactical Iron Skin. We take 3 points into Belligerence because we are using Flay. We take 3 points into Swiftness because we are using the Ugly Bastard. We don't need to take points in here. This should read 12% damage reduction instead of 4. 3 points into Pit Fighter as everything is close to us. 3 points in Slaying Strike. We take 3 points to Exposed Vulnerability, 3 points into Rupture, into Warrior's Rupture, and here this is why you want to Rupture every 5 seconds for the attack speed. And if you read Rupture every time you use Rupture, it is a guaranteed overpower, which procs our Warpath. Then we have 3 ranks into Cut to the Bone, 3 ranks to Steel Grasp for Fighter Steel Grasp, 1 point to Thick Skin, into 3 points to Counter Offensive, and 3 points into Irrepressible, 3 points into Heavy Handed, 3 points to Furious Impulses, 7 points into Wrath of the Berserker, or Supreme Wrath of the Berserker. And our key passive is Gushing Wounds. And this is why you want to have as much damage over time as possible. For our skills, you want Rend on your Two-Handed Slashing, and you want Rupture on Two-Handed Slashing. But to gain more fury, we put Flay on Dual Wield. And for the Paragon, our first board is Territorial. Our next board is Decimator, and both bonuses of Decimator do proc. And this board we take Rumble. Our next board is Hemorrhage, and it's to the right of Decimator, where we take Wrath. Then we path down from Hemorrhage into the Blood Rage, and our glyph is Challenger. Our final board is on the left of Decimator, and it's Weapon Master, and here we take Ire. And that is Rend with the Fields of Crimson. I'm very happy with how this build is going. I continue to push it further. If you like the bleed, Barb, give this a try. It's definitely no Earthquake build, definitely not S tier, but a lot of fun. If the bleed playstyle's for you, make sure you farm a Fields of Crimson. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.